You see, it's stuff like this that is the reason why the Japanese should never make content for these losers. And I keep saying this all the time. And I hope that as time goes on, the Japanese start to realize exactly the kind of people that they're dealing with, because by pandering to these losers, by virtue signaling to these losers, or even listening to these losers, you're going to start to realize that there is no making them happy, because their goal is not to end up happy with the product they're never going to buy. The goal for them is to ruin you and make you bend the knee because they are on a power trip. Well, apparently we have an article from That Park Place with a headline they reads, Dragon Quest creator Yuji Horii maligned as a Nazi and a chud for even questioning gender ideology being required for Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Now, if you guys remember, I did a video reacting to this video, which came from two specific Japanese people that are very prominent, and they were talking about Dragon Quest, the remake, HD 2D remake, and how the whole Type 1, Type 2 thing is stupid, doesn't make sense. They don't understand who's offended by this. They don't get who's angry over this, who's talking over this. None of this makes sense to them, right? The fact that you want to censor these characters, none of it makes sense. And I'm glad that they were saying this, but they ultimately said the reason why they had to do it was because of supposed regulations set by Western developers, Western studios, Western publishers. It's all the West. It's our fault, essentially. And you know what? I agree with that. I can see how it's our fault, because it's not like Japan has a whole bunch of fucking psycho wokies running around. Sure, I'm sure they have a few, but compared to the United States, it's not the same. So let's get into this article, guys, from That Park Place. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So, Yuji, the creator of Dragon Quest, is being maligned as a Nazi and a chud for questioning gender ideology being forced upon Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake. During an interview at Tokyo Game Show alongside former Weekly Shonen Jump editor-in-chief Kazuhiko Torishima, Horii was asked about the changes made to the characters' designs in Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake, and specifically why more clothing was added to Jenna Sharp, the female hero in the game. So this is the original video. You already saw this. I'm not gonna, get back into that and whatnot. But you guys already know they completely destroyed the West, and they were even laughing at it, which is, again, they're laughing at us. They're laughing at how ridiculous and stupid that we are by requiring things like Type 1 and Type 2 instead of male and female, because we live in this overly superficial, bullshit inclusive world where the world was already inclusive as it was and diverse, and then white people came in and said, oh, that's not enough. We got to start adding labels. We got to start adding titles. We got to start changing language. And then before you know it, here we are. So then again, it says next, he stated there's a religious concept from the West, especially in America, that influences their approach to sex education, right? Their approach to compliance is really narrow-minded. Then again, this questioning of the insertion of gender ideology into the character select for the game has brought the ire of activists who are labeling Horii as a Nazi. Ex-user Frosted Yukio wrote, Yuji Horii going Nazi was not on my bingo sheet. Now, guys, I want to be very clear, like I said in my live streams before, the true Nazis right now in today's day and age are these people, okay? It's these people. These are the people that if we were in World War II, they would have sided with the Nazis. These are the people, if we were in World War II, they would have ratted out the Jews to the Nazis. These are the people, if they would be the ones making lists. They would be the ones asking to see your papers. These are the people who would be the Nazis. They project so damn hard because they're the ones who want everybody to bend the knee to them and do as they say, think as they say, speak as they do, and they are the ones that do that. They are the true Nazis. Then it says the user explained his reasoning in subsequent posts. First, he wrote, pretty much welcoming culture war tourists who tend to be Nazis. Again, you can project as much as you possibly want, but anime profile picture, which means you're likely trans, You are the actual Nazi. Everybody knows that. In another post, he added it was censored because of Zero, and that's been consistent for over a decade. The Type A, Type B stuff is not censorship. It sure as fuck is. It sure as fuck is. Type A and Type B is absolutely censorship. It might be a small case of censorship, but it absolutely is censorship. There is no doubt about it. Male and female exist. And if you put Type A and Type B, and you don't change the character models, and the character models are still male and female, just like they were when the name said male and female, then you didn't do anything other than censor the words male and female. That's it. You changed it to include who? Who feels included by being called Type A and Type B? Nobody. Interestingly, the user would later admit he did not actually watch the interview. Oh, look at this. No, I haven't watched the video. I haven't had the time. So you would call out a name. You would throw the word. This is why these words have no meaning, right? Words like racist, sexist, misogynist, homophobe, now Nazi, all that stuff, they have absolutely zero meaning because these fucking losers keep throwing out these words and they just throw them out there without actually understanding who they're throwing it out there to. This idiot didn't even watch the video and yet he's throwing out the word Nazi and accusing someone of being such. You're insane. You're absolutely insane. One user on the Gaming Circle Jerk subreddit described both Horty and Torishima as douchebags. He wrote, "To be fair, I don't think creatives should have to do something they don't want to because of outside forces telling them to do so. And just slapping body type A and B labels on what was obviously designed as male and female choice is one of the most annoyingly performative things I've seen in games lately." I agree with that. I agree with that. It is superficial, right? All of it is superficial diversity. It's performative. It's to give people the perception of virtue. It's to say, oh, look how amazing we are because we did this. Oh, you want different models? No. The models are still male and female. Come on, guys. We can't be insane. But they still change male and female to Type A and Type B. Now give me my ESG money. Yeah, fuck that shit, man. Nevertheless, he then added, that said, these two still sound like douchebags, and I won't be buying their games because of that. I just think they should have the right to make it the way they want. You would never going to buy the game anyway. Let's be real. You were never going to buy the game anyway. Because if you knew anything, you would realize that most of Japan acts like this and thinks like this regarding all of this nonsense. They're not exactly the most politically correct people out there. So the fact of now that they're saying this in a video, you all of a sudden don't want to buy their game. Yeah, I don't believe that. People specifically buy Japanese Eastern content games because they want to avoid all the nonsense they're seeing in Western games. Anybody who buys Japanese games usually knows that's how they are and knows how the culture is, or at least looks into it a little bit. You, on the other hand, are trying to say that you're not going to buy the game now because they're douchebags. Like, come on, bro. You're not convincing anybody. You weren't going to buy the game regardless. Also, it's ridiculous that gamers are acting like the opinion of two old men is representative of every creator in Japan and somehow proves the West is forcing their beliefs on Japan. You can't even say that these two are representative of their whole team. The user concluded, I can say with a fact, and I would gladly be proven wrong, but I can say with a fact that Japan absolutely, for the most part, is against this nonsense. Absolutely. And like I said, is there some wokies out there? Of course. There's some manga out there that some of the West would think is woke, when in fact, it's just part of the LGBTQ community out there. But at the end of the day, the majority of their culture is not into this shit. The majority of their culture doesn't like the fucking politically correct nonsense that the West is pushing. And the West is absolutely pushing it on them. You want to know how that's true? Because look, Dragon Quest or games like Dragon Quest are considered uncensored in Japan. They are released in their actual state, whereas the Western release is never released in that state. It's always censored. So what does that tell you, genius? Does that tell you the Japanese are accepting of all the shit that the West is doing? No, because if they were, then the game that they're releasing in Japan wouldn't be uncensored. It would be censored just like the Western version is, but it almost never is. Their version is always the original version, and we get the censored version. It's because we in the West are the ones that are asking for it. You're a fucking retard if you think otherwise. Just look at the games. That'll tell you everything you need to know. It'll tell you that, yeah, they do actually represent most of their team because the game themselves prove it. Then it says that another user in a subreddit wrote, no surprise people associated with Toriyama would be this chuddy. Again, these are people that have no respect to the creative process. All they want to see is their pronouns, their Type A and Type B, and their trans ideology. That's all they want to see. That's all they care about. They're not actually players of the game. They're not going to buy the game. They're not going to support them monetarily. And it's just all stupid. He described Hori as a dinosaur, which again, most Japanese developers are. If you know and look at a lot of Japanese studios, a lot of them are older Japanese men, which to be honest is why Nintendo is so consistent with how they are, is because they don't want to change their ways. And why should they? They know exactly what they're doing. They're one of the biggest companies in Japan, if not the biggest, and they're going to constantly keep making money doing the same shit they've been doing, because why change something if it's not broken? So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.